Hello, everyone. Yes. Uh, Good evening, Rangaswamy sir. Hello, Viren. Yes, Sagar sir. Really nice to see all of you. Okay, so how many of you are for the first time joining the hackathon? If you're joining for the first time, type me in the chat box. Hey, Prashant. Okay, great. Sagar, Sharon, Viren, Ravi Kiran, Joseph, Raj, Leela Kumar. Many of you, Vimal, Saji, Alex. Great. Okay, so we'll begin. So I'll start from the basics. So how our hackathons are structured? Let me just walk you through that process, right? So each of our hackathons will be short. This will be for you to get a push to finish whole of your course, right? So let me first navigate you through the course, right? So I hope everybody has got their access to Teachable. So if you've got, if you're able to log into Teachable, type L in the chat box. So if you're able to log in, type L in the chat box. How many of you are able to log into Teachable? Yes, thanks Prashant. Thanks Lakshman. Thanks Deepak sir. Thanks Raj sir. Okay, great. So anyone specific who was not able to log into, I'm taking in mobile now. Spirit sir says I'm taking in mobile now. But I would suggest you can safely shift to a desktop system, sir. It will be easier. So let me first walk you through your Teachable access, right? So once you log into your Teachable, right? So the link to the course comes on your email ID that you have used while joining the community, right? No problem. No problem, parents. So automatically, Shirin said, like if you're facing any challenge, you can leave an email here, but automatically when you join the community, you will get a email which will give you all the details about the credentials and everything, right? So that is the reason others are able to already log in, right? So now what you have to do is in this Teachable account, you should start from the beginning, right? So let's just say here, introduction to Python programming, right? So if at all, I'm just going to, review a lecture for you. If my screen is visible, type V in the chat box. If my screen is visible, type V in the chat box. Great. Okay. So now you start your lecture from here. Now you can see in the introduction to Python, there are, 3 different forms for the same, learning in detail of how to get started on Python, right? So now let's say, even if you start from any of these videos, you'll be able to get started. But if at all you are completely, starting from scratch, and first time for you to code, I would request you to watch all of these 3. So you will have that stronger recall as well, right? So that is very easy and, easy to get started. Today, we are going to do a refresher of a few topics that are covered in the first sessions. So how the hackathons are going to work, the current hackathons are going to work is, you would be required to continue from the beginning and continue from 0.0 to 1, 1.2, 1.3, and you have to keep going on until you reach to your course completion. But in the meanwhile, we'll be doing our hackathons. So when you're practicing something, you might face a challenge, a roadblock, and you can bring those queries to us, right? So that is one issue. And you can also follow along and learn a little if there is any small problem you're facing in the hackathon as well, right? Okay, so all these are private unlisted videos only available for your email ID. You will only, because you have access to your Teachable, you will only have access to these videos, right? Okay, so let's get started for each of the lectures. Now, every lecture has something called this lecture notes. Now you can see here, there is one link for Google Collab. And if I go forward in another lecture, now you can see there is a drive link for the second Python basics introduction to pandas and numpy, right? So now when you open that, you will be able to open another file as well, right? So now you have to click as open with Google Collab, right? So it will actually open in a better format. Correct. In Google Drive, it will not open properly. You have to click on open with Google Collab, right? So it will come here in the top, right? So you have to click on that, right? So this is just like a notepad file that has opened. So this is the actual file that opens up, right? So we're not going in the second session here. We are starting with the Python basics. So I'm going to share with you this link, right? The Collab link right now of the file that we are going to learn today, because these are basics that we are learning. I'm just going to share with you a link and you can just open that, right? So the link to this is also available on your Teachable, but for the people who have joined right now on YouTube, I've just shared this on the Zoom chat, right? So people who are watching us on YouTube, you from email went on YouTube to join us, you can join us on our Zoom session as well, right? Okay, great. So now if you see this particular file, I request everyone, I'll just wait for a few seconds until you open the link that I've shared on the Zoom. If you have the file open, type O for open in the chat box. If you have the file open, type O. Great, Deepak sir. Thanks, Prashant. Great. Hey, Sagar. Nice. Okay, Smita. Right. So anyone else? Yeah, great, Shivam. This is very important, right? So now you are getting started onto Python. Hey, Vinita ma'am. So yeah, so we are covering the basics for the new members who have joined. Thank you so much. Great, Leela Kumar. Great, Sharon. Amazing. So you are able to open the file, right? So now what you would be required to do is you have to click. Now I've shared, Jyoti asks which file. I've shared the link on the Zoom chat, right? So now you can click on that once again. Now what you would be required to do is you have to click on file and click on save a copy in Drive, right? So you have to click on file here. So how many are able to see this? File, and within that file, click on save a copy in Drive. So when you do that, it will automatically create a copy and open a new tab where you can make your own edits, right? So this will be more of a limited, view only access. Here it will be edit also, right? So if you understood that, type U in the chat box. Yeah. So Rangaswamy sir, you say share the link in email. So I would request you, like if you have access to Teachable, you can find it on Teachable as well. But if you require that on email, so are you logged into Zoom from your desktop, sir? If yes, this link will automatically open desktop only. Share the link also directly. Great. So now you have made a copy. That's great. Okay, so people who are watching us on the YouTube link that was shared on the email, you can even rewind if there is any issue that you're facing, right? Great. So now you're clear. Now what I'm going to do here is go on file. I'm just giving you an introduction to Collab. So Collab is a tool provided by Google and their team, which is like an online environment for you to run your Python programs, right? So normally if you're learning any of the new technology, you might have to actually install an editor or a software on your system, but Google has made it easy for you to run programs, like even complex, to complex programs till an extent, you will be able to run it on Google Collab itself, right? So if you are opening Google Collab for the first time, now if you click on this logo here in the corner, all your files will be, whatever files you have opened till now, will be available on your Google Collab. Right now, if you're first time open, you'll have only one file. Now, if you open in your Teachable other files and you progress, you'll continue from 1.1 to 1.2 and continue forward like that, right? So that is how you'll proceed. So this is a little about Collab. It is like part of your Google Drive only. So it is very easy to use. right? So if you agree that it is easy to use, type E in the chat box. Till now. Yeah, great. Thanks, Prashant. Okay. Yes, Sagar sir. If you have any other ID preference also, you can go ahead and use that as well, right? So even Collab is fine because it is browser independent. You can go ahead and use that. So that should not be a problem, right? So this is good. So now what I'm going to do here is we are going to start now. I'm going to click on this view here. Okay, let me go ahead and clear the inputs. Now I'm going to edit in this portion and I'm going to click on clear all outputs. So this will help you clear any outputs that are there, right? So edit, clear all outputs. I've done that, so that now you can see that only queries are there. Earlier there were some run programs also. Right now that are not there. This else, right? So now each of these new cell is a code cell. I'm going to introduce you to that. So before that, we are going to connect to our Google Collab, right? So now when you install a software on your system, what will happen is this will occupy some space, some RAM and storage on your system, right? But when you are using this on Google Collab, you will be able to use a little RAM and storage allocated by Google, right? So how do you do that? You can click on connect here, right? So when you click on connect here, now you can see that there is some space that is getting allocated for you. Now you can see in just a few seconds, you will be able to run, all your programs, right? So Ravi Kiran sir. Yeah, so Ravi Kiran sir asks, how do you log into Teachable? Let me just go ahead. You would have received an email also, sir, but I'm also sharing school.pixeltests.com. Yeah, so here, what I would request you to do is, if at all you are still not able to log in that case, what I request everyone to do is like go ahead and click on forgot password, login and forgot password. So you will be able to reset your password. So if at all you're not able to log in, you can go through the session right now and then rewatch it from the email YouTube link that you could have seen. Don't try to parallelly do, because this will be a short session, right? Now, how many of you are able to connect to your Google Collab, right? So if you're able to connect, type C in the chat box. Great. Okay. So a lot of people have done it, right? So initial steps are done. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, great. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to run our first, cell. What you have to do is whenever each of these code cells, you can just click on this run button to run it, right? So if at all you have to create a new cell, you have to click on this plus code right here on top. When you click here, it will insert a new code cell here, right? So you can even use take it a little in to the top and bottom by using the arrows here. If you're watching from mobile, it will be a little challenge, right? So just request you to go onto a desktop. If you are watching on a tablet device, then you might have to watch it on a landscape mode. Great. So now what I'm going to do here is, let's say you can go ahead and run this program directly, or you can type it also here. Like I'm going to say print. Okay, so this is one of the commands that we are going to use. And then I'm going to use the brackets, which is the parenthesis, right? And within that, I'm just going to write hello world, right? And so when you do that and have your RAM and disconnected, when you run on it, you will see that it printed hello world, right? So the result of that comes in the bottom. Okay, so this is how this works, and you can do a lot of things. Just to make it easy for you and also save time, we have all the commands written out already so that it's easy for you to understand. But it's very important that for you to practice it, right? So Python is a language which runs the program while you click on the run button. So it is not like other languages where in C, C++ or other languages, it first gets compiled and then you run the file. So it's not like that. So it is a little, this runs in the runtime, right? So it runs when you click on the run button, right? So which has a lot of other advantages. We'll see them as we go forward, right? So I'm just going to clear this cell. And if I'm going to just say 4 + 5, and I'm going to run it, now you can see that it has printed 9, right? So it can do a little smaller operations also. But you can use your Python cells for many other things. But if you're able to run your first cell on your Google Colab, type R in the chat box. Great. Hey Ritesh, nice to have you. So we are just revising a few concepts, the beginner concepts, right? So you can choose to continue. Great. Amazing. Right. So this is how all your program runs will be, right? So when you run any program, what is going to happen is it is going to see if it is in the proper syntax. So now what is syntax? Syntax is how there are some set rules, like how you have your grammar in English. There are some rules in Python. This is how you have to call a program. So when you disagree to that, there'll be some error that comes, right? So for example, when you're trying to do the same print, okay, and I'm just saying print and I'm not having these brackets and I'm going to run it. So it is going to run into an error, right? So errors are good. Even if you watch your lectures here on your Teachable, right? So you can see that, Rajiv sir and everyone says like errors are your friends. So they'll teach a lot of you, how to learn from your mistakes, right? So it is telling missing parentheses, right? So it is telling me like parentheses is nothing but the brackets, right? So you can just go ahead and say, okay, it is missing parentheses. Let's see if it is going to run because I've just corrected and I'll see if there's still some error. Okay, so now it says invalid syntax, right? So now you can see that the syntax word I've told you, the syntax error, when you do not do a few things by the rules that are set for Python, it will call out an error, right? So that is what we always try to do. We always try to run it in a proper format, right? So there are some set ways to run each of the cell. That is how each of the Python command runs, right? So now for a print command, you have to use the brackets, and then if it is a string, we'll also see more about strings as we go forward. But when it is a set of letters and characters, you have to use this double quotes, right? Right. So if you have understood till now, like, the basic of it, if you understood it, type U in the chat box. Great. Okay. Thanks, Prashant. Thanks, Sagar sir. Thanks, Vinita ma'am. Okay, great. So similarly, now you can print command is a command that you frequently use. It's the most handy command. Many times you're going to use it, and you will use it in various formats also. Now you can change anything that is there. So I'm just going to say hello, or like I'm just going to say namaste world. So it's just going to say namaste world, right? So that's how it's going to work. Anything. So Alex, sir, if that is the case, if you're not able to do hands-on just for the reason, then watch this and then redo it. And if it's a device issue, currently you follow it. Later on, you can parallelly do it. Not a problem, right? Great. So now what we are going to do is similarly. Now I'm going to say print learning Python is easy. It is going to print learning Python is easy. Now you can see there is a little change in the way the syntax, the way this command is written. I will, and there is a plus symbol, and then there is ace at Python, right? So I will, or succeed at Python, or whatever. Now this Python, what is going to do is this one set of double quotes here. It is called a string. We'll see more about strings. So this plus is going to add both of them, combine or join both of them and print it out. So it's going to say, I will ace at Python, right? So the same is different if it is numbers, right? So if it is numbers, it is going to be 4 + 5 again. Okay, so let's just 4 plus 4 again. It's going to print 8. And for numbers, you can note that we have not used the double quotes. Right? So we'll see more about it. But print command can do a lot of things. It can handle various type of data types, right? So now we'll try to understand what are data types and what are variables, right? So now we have understood the basics of print command. Now let's try to understand what are variables. Now, because let's say what is the time now when somebody asks you that question. Now that is a variable question, right? So after some time, the same question has a different answer, right? So a variable is something that will have a value that will keep changing, right? So for example, if you have a box at your home which has let's say chocolates or biscuits, now the count of biscuits or chocolates in that box is going to be changing always. It is variable. Right? The contents of the box also are variable. It could be sometimes biscuits, chocolates, or something else, right? Some other bakery items, cakes. So that is how those variables behave. So variable is something that will hold a different value at a different time, right? So now how do you define a variable in Python is, I'm just opening this code block. Now you can use, this is very simple in Python. You can write in a name, okay? So I'm just going to give it here. So now you can just write a name, let's say greeting. I'm just going to say greeting here, and let's say box, okay? Box equal to, and I'm just going to say double quotes. Within that, I'm just going to say BISUITS biscuits, okay? And then I'm just going to click on enter, and I'm going to say print box, right? So I'm just going to say print box. So it will print the contents of the box. So now what the box contains, box is equal to biscuits, right? So it is a string. Now when you run this, it will print biscuits, right? Similarly, what we are trying to do here is, okay, so you are able to see me. Great. Okay. Now let's just say greeting. Now we have made a variable. Now let's just say we have had in that variable a value, let's say 5. Now when you print greeting, the greeting will print 5, right? So similarly, you can have underscore like you have in your email IDs within your variable names, and you can say equal to 2, and when you print current lesson, we print 2, right? And if at all, let's just say instead of 2, I'm going to say current lesson is intro to Python. It's going to print in greeting 5, and in current lesson intro to Python, and today's date, for example. Sorry. Now let's say if you are looking at today's date, it's going to print whatever is saved here, right? So let's say I'm just going to correct it. It's going to be March. I'm going to say 30. If I've given the value to this variable as 2023 March 30, when you say print today's date, it's going to print that particular value. So I'm going to run this. You can give multiple commands also. All right. So now what you can do here is you can see greeting has printed 5, current lesson intro to Python, and date as this, right? So you can change the contents now because I've said this is a variable, it can change. Now 7 could become 5, 5 could become 7. And when you run it, it will print 7, or greeting could become something different, like could say hola, right? So I'm just going to say run, and now you can see that it was a number, now it is a string, right? So string is nothing but a combination of characters and words, right? So if you have understood till now what is a little variable about a variable, if you understood that variables, type V in the chat box. Okay, okay. Yeah, okay, great. So I think it's a good question on the same where I wanted to go, Sagar sir. So why have we not used the double quotes here while we printed greeting? Very good question. Now, what happens is whatever you put within double quotes is considered by Python as a string, right? So now what happens is when you are talking about a variable, now this is a variable, it does not require you to put double quotes. Variables do not require double quotes. But if you make this like a double quote here, now what happens is, now you can see that it has changed its color to red here. Now what happens is it will consider that as a string and it will not print, consider this as a variable itself. It will not print the contents of the variable greeting. It will think this is the new string that you want to print and it will print greeting directly. Okay. So for variables, this is the point that if you're making note, you want to make a note. For variables, you do not require the double quotes, right? So for strings alone, you require. So wherever you have variables, now because this is a variable, that in that you can have a string which will have double quotes. In that, if there is a number, you might even not require the double quotes itself, and you might want to remove the double quotes, right? So let's try to see if I'm giving a double quote and trying to print, what is going to give. Great. So now you can see it is printed greeting, but not the contents of the variable greeting, right? So this is what is the difference, Sagar said. Now, if you have understood that, if that is clear, I hope that is clear. Even if that is clear for others also, that's great, right? If it is clear that you do not require double quotes for variable, type C in the chat box. Amazing. Now, that is very important. So one of the section that I would want to cover here is comment. It is something that is very handy, helpful for you. So now what happens is when you have this hashtags, hash, right? So when you write a hash and after that, whatever you write, it is going to be considered, it's like an invisible thing. Python does not print that, right? So I'm just going to say hash and I'm going to say this is a string, right? Print this is a string. And now I'm just going to copy this. Yeah, copy paste works well here in Collab also. I'm just going to remove this double quotes and this is a variable, right? So now what happens here is very easy. This hashtag, when you write hash or pound symbol, whatever you write after that, Python ignores, right? So now you can see here, it will print this first one as greeting and the second one as the variable, right? So I'm just going to run it. Now this is the string and this is the variable, and it printed the greeting as string and this contents of that particular variable. Great. Okay, I think Saji, your question also became clear. Yeah, so Joseph sir, in Jupyter, sometimes we write with single quotes also. Single quotes for strings also work. But you know, this particular version of Collab, when we are using, sometimes it gets confused with double quotes of others. So normally it's been a practice, like we use single quotes for characters. So that's not a problem. You can use single quotes also for strings. It should not be a problem. But yeah, it's like an individual choice, not a problem. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Now we have understood a little about variables. Variables are like boxes where you can change the contents of it. There is a little, understand each variable takes some space in your RAM or the storage, right? So this everything is happening on the RAM of Google Colab. If you see that has been allocated here, but every variable takes some space in your RAM, right? So normally when you write some code, it is taking some space on your RAM, and efficient code means you write code which is taking less space on your RAM or performing in a better way, right? So we'll get there, but each variable takes some, very small amounts of KBs or bytes of RAM space on your system, if you're running on your system or on Collab's Google Collab's RAM, right? So that is something good to know. Now, When you do arithmetic, it is simple. We have seen a little. So now you can see mango is equal to 2 plus 5 into 20. So it will do 5 into 20, then plus 2. And because it is a variable, we have not used double quotes here, right? So now what it will do, it will first go here. Okay, it says, okay, mango is equal to this. So what I'm going to do, Python is thinking like this. So I'm just going to calculate this and save it in mangoes. And then I'm going to print whatever is there in mangoes. So when I do that, it is going to print 100, right? So it is printed the 520 is 100 plus 2 and just printed. So this is how arithmetic can happen. Now you can do anything here plus 1034 or anything. It'll calculate, and you can use the print command to see what has been calculated, right? So this is how a little arithmetic you can do. And these are plus, into, division, all of these are easy. But there is this one command. When you use the percentage symbol, there are multiple ways to use the percentage symbol, but a unique way also, there is like a way which is called modulo operator. So when you use this between numbers, the percentage symbol in Python, it will give you the basic reminder. Like for what happens here is, when you say 85, this percentage symbol and 5, so what it will do is it will divide 85 with 5, and whatever reminder is there, it will calculate. So this percentage symbol, when used between numbers, it behaves differently, right? So it has multiple uses. So one of the uses is this. Now when I'm going to run this, now what it has done is 85 divided by 5. So it did the division. So 5 ones are 5 and 35 was reminder, 5 sevens are 35. So this is completely divisible. And what it did is there was no reminder, right? So it was with, I'm just going to do this on calculator here. 85 divided by 5. So it is 5 17s are 85. So there is no reminder. Okay. So now for that reason, the reminder comes here is 0, right? So this is called the modulo operator, right? So you can use the modulo 5. So when you do, the reminder of 85 when divided by 5 is calculated, and this is called the modulo operator. Like for example, I'm going to say now 11 modulo 2. So 2 5s are 10. 1 is the reminder. So when you do 11 modulo 2, the value output will be 1. Right? So it is helpful in calculating the reminder. So this you can use later on in logic, but right now you don't have to understand anything. Percentage the symbol can also operate differently. It is called modulo operator. Some you might have learned about it long back, but if you understood this now, type U in the chat box. Great, thanks Alex, thanks Prashant, thanks everyone. Great. What is the variable name? Is only alphabet, or can we use number? Yes, absolutely. Can we include any special characters also? So there is a limitation on what special character. So Vimal's question, so I hope everybody can see it. So now basically the numbers, student 1, student 2, Vimal, sorry Vimala, I'm really sorry, Vimala ma'am. So basically we use it very often. Now let's say I'm just going to run a code here, and I'm going to say student 1. Let's say he's got marks 85, and I'm going to say enter, and I'm just going to copy paste it because it's easy. I'm just going to student 2, and I'm going to say 57, and I'm going to say student 3, and I'm going to say 67 or 66. Right? So now I'm going to just say print student 3. It'll just go ahead and print the student 3, whatever way is contents in that. So if I'm going to change it to student 2, it's going to print that, right? So we'll see that unique use cases of that also, right? So thanks for the question. So that is going to be covered as we go forward. Yeah, so now we have understood this. Now you understood little about variables, little what kind of arithmetic we can do. You understood you learned a new operator also, like multiplication, multiplier, plus, these are all operators. Percentage also is like the modulo operator, right? So now updating variables. Now we'll do a small exercise. If you have your Collab files open, you can run this. Now let's see first, before you run it, you can just do a very simple one. So now what we have done is, yeah, so Dhanush sir's question is, when the full stack class will start? Many people, if at all you are midway in your journey in Python, or you want to get into the AI modules or stats modules, you can directly start learning into, like, you can continue with the lectures because you have the understanding of the basics and all, and we will slowly come to the hackathons will reach you, and whenever you have a query you can do that. We also have these hackathons happen in cycles, right? So once we complete one cycle, then we'll start again from the beginning, right? So the full stack, or more make features, maybe you are looking at make features and EDA or even higher kind of modules. All those things are already there on your Teachable. You can get started with yourself. If you require any help, and you can even bring those questions to our regular hackathons also, right? So you can always reach out. It should not be a problem, right? So I will soon come, like, once, we'll go in that sequence and we'll reach there. I hope that becomes clear. That's clear, I guess, then as well. Okay, now let's say there is one variable, which is the fish in pond. Okay, so yes, then sir, I think that should be the question. So what I'm going to do is, I think to understand better, I've shared the contact. Maybe post the session, you can ask the question. Yeah, so Sherin has a question. If percentage symbol is modulo operator, how can we use calculate percentage of any number? How will we differentiate between modulo operator and percentage calculation? Depends upon the use, Sherin. As we go forward, we'll also learn about that, right? So when you divide it by 100, so you will get the percentage that way also, right? So and there are other variables also, other functions which will be helpful in calculating the percentage. We'll cover about that. It's a good question. Yes, Jyoti ma'am. Great. So we are just getting started. So basically, all the people who are learning right now, this is for you to give you that push start. But I would request you to go, the Teachable, go through the Teachable by yourself. There is a lot, and if there is any questions, you can always bring to the hackathons, right? So don't just be dependent on hackathons, because that will kind of slow your progress or journey. But I'm sure the same kind of experience, because the same has been used in the hackathon also, right? You can watch that, parallelly run these programs, and you can do it at your own pace. So that is the most beneficial thing, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. Now let's say there's a variable which says fish in pond is 50. When you print fish in pond, it will be 50. And let's just say there is, catching fish, the activity started. And there is a new variable which says number of fish caught is 10, right? So there are 10 fish caught. So the new fish in pond, first I'm just going to, show you the actual way that normally we do it, right? So the fish in pond is equal to the fish in pond, which was earlier, minus the number of fish caught. So the new fish in pond is the old fish in pond minus number of fish caught. So what it will do is, it will update the fish in pond number by doing 50 minus 10. Now, within the same variable fish in pond, it will have not 50, but 40, right? So now the variable this is called the updating a variable in here, right? So now you can see here, first it was 50. Then after catching fish has started, then it became 40, right? So if, let's just say, the catching, they have caught more fish, let's say 20, the updated fish in pond would have been 30, right? So this is like a simple example, just to give you an understanding that the updating variables happens within your programs, right? So this is how variables are updated when we'll see a lot of other examples, right? So how many of you understood this line that we have written? Fish in pond equal to fish in pond minus number of fish caught. If you understood this, type U in the chat box. Yeah, great. Okay, so this is so frequently used that we have a shorthand notation for this, right? So this kind of an update is very frequently used. And for that, what we do is fish in pond minus equal to number of fish caught. Now, what this does is, I'm just going to comment this. I'm just using the hash symbol to make this invisible. Okay, so now you can see fish in pond minus equal to number of fish caught. This will work in the same way. So fish in pond minus number of fish caught, updating in the same variable. So even if I run this, let's say the people now have caught 30, it will be 50 minus 30. So this will work in the same way. So it's like a shorthand notation. This is, you can use this to decrease any variable or increase any variable also, right? So this is like a shorthand notation. And if you say plus equal to whatever fish in pond earlier was there, to that it will add the variable that you are having on the right side. Great. So now if you run this, now you can see that 50, because we have written plus equal to, it has become 50 plus 30 and it has become 80, right? So this is how it is. So Koteshwara sir, yeah, so great. So thank you so much, sir. So the Rajiv sir's session, so because right now we are also going to revise Rajiv sir's sessions. So after the revision, again, we are going to start the Rajiv sir sessions. This is a good time for you to revise all of his lectures that you can find on the inner circle or within your lectures, because we have seen that the more importance was there for actually having strength of the concepts, not just learning the new concepts also. So we are soon going to resume that. So that's, if that is the question, I hope that I've answered it. Yeah, so so for the people who are looking like, you're on mid journey, these current cycle of this Python learning, this would be a little beginner friendly. So you can continue with your teachable journey. And if you have any questions, you can always, you might already by now know, you can always write to us or reach us if there's any challenge also. Or right now we have also enabled the comment section on Teachable. You can even use that. Okay, so it will do all the questions will reach us, right? So there is this small exercise. I'd request everyone to actually look into that. I'm just going to show you only one portion of it. So now let's just say January to June rainfall. Let's say there is this variables that are telling you different measurements of rainfall. Let's say Jan, Feb, March till June. Now total of it, if you run this, so for now I'm just going to remove all this to avoid confusion, and I'm just going to run this. So I'm not printed it, so it will not print anything, right? So now I have to say print, and within that I have to say, okay, January underscore to underscore June rainfall, right? If my spellings are all correct, then it will print whatever was the total, right? So I'm not going to right now print anything. Now I'm just going to paste all the code that I removed here. Now annual rainfall is equal to January to this variable, which was 17.77. Now when you print this, let's say it will come 17.77. Now when you see July rainfall, new month passed on, and then there was 1.05, right? So now what do you do? How do you add using the shorthand notation? Annual rainfall plus equal to July rainfall. So when you do that, whatever new value 1.05 was there, it will get added to 17.77. And when August comes, plus equal to August, plus equal to September, and till that towards the end, if you run it, you will reach the actual end annual rainfall, right? So I request you to spend some time if you are having challenge understanding that, but it's a very simple to understand program, right? Okay, so basically this is more or less about variables and all, right? So I would still request you to go and go through your teachable lessons. Now, I'm just going to show you the same thing here. Now, if you proceed forward, you can see here. Okay, let me just share my sound system sound. The same concepts have been covered. We learn in strings. It's a very simple concept. Now, variables. When we come to variables, what are still one, right? So that's how this works, right? So now let's just say 150 divided by 2, reminder would be 0, right? So yeah, so which is the same concept that we have covered right now. So how many of you feel that you can parallelly watch the same and also do it, right? So if I would also request you to go forward and also do your self-learning, because that is where you'll have the strongest recall, right? So also do that, but while we go forward, right? So rest of the sessions, rest of the concepts are also very easy to grasp and understand. So what we are going to do is we're not going to go in totally in detail in this particular session, but I'm just going to cover briefly so that you would require to go through the video and complete it by yourself, right? So that should be fine, right? Great. Amazing. So now we have understood all of these things. Now let's try to understand data types. Okay. So now what happens is, now we have already started working with numbers and strings, but there are little different numbers also, let's say decimal numbers. Now, when you have a number without a decimal, right? So it is an integer like we have in the number system, right? So these are all integers. But when you have, like, say, a point after that, that particular data type, so that number becomes a float number, right? So now you can see here, this number got printed as 10.0, right? So now how do you check what is the data type of each of the number? You can write type, and I'm just going to say, let's say I'm going to run this, and I'm going to say int1. I'm going to copy paste it here. When I do type of int1, so it will tell me the type of that. So it is telling me it is an integer number, right? So if I'm going to use the float2 and paste it here and run it, so it's going to tell that it is a float. Now let's say I'm just going to say hello in the strings, right? In the double quotes is going to tell me str, which is a string. So there are different data types in Python we use for different cases. Okay. So now you can see here, let's say there is a small example here. Let's say there are 10 cucumbers. Now price per cucumber is 3.25. So the total cost equal to cucumbers into price per cucumber. So which is the normal math. But now you can see the total cost will be, I'm just going to print it. So it was 10 into 3.25. So this integer number, when multiplied by float, has become a float number, right? So something similar we do, and this is any decimal point is called a float in. So basically float is nothing but a floating number, and it has a little more understanding to that. But for your understanding, you can understand this as a decimal number, Prashant, right? So integers can be like, this could be positive, negative, right? For example, now integer -5 could be there, and float also -32.5 could be there. So it's like decimal number and integer number. If you have gone through that, you understood float. right? So I hope that answers your question, Prashant. Right? So now let's say if you're trying to divide here, like say cucumbers 100 and number of people 6, and you're trying to divide cucumbers by number of people and trying to print it, you can see 100 by 6, that becomes a float number, though you have used both integers, right? So something similar. Now here there is something called a multi-line string. Multi-line string is nothing but when this is like very rarely used, it's like good to know thing. Now what happens is sometimes you don't require you want to write in multiple lines in a variable. So then you use this triple quotes. I'm just going to run it and show it to you. Now you can see if you write three quotes here and then give enter space, it will also consider that enter as a new line, right? If I'm just going to use a single quote here like this, okay, and it will run into an error because string only requires one line text. It will not be able to take multiple line text. So it has ran into an error. So whenever you want a variable to hold more than, let's say, 2 line or a new line character needs to be there, like address, right? So address is never one single. So in that case only, you would require this triple quotes. It's like a multi-line string. This is on your Collab also. You can run it and experience for yourself, right? Now, before we go into the next segments, we need to understand another data type, which is called Booleans, right? So now what are Booleans? Booleans are yes or no kind of variables, right? So now let's say some questions will have answers in true or false, right? So now let's say here there is a statement which says, hi, I am Maria and I live in, let's say some, I'm just going to say Hyderabad, okay? I am expert Python coder. I am 21 years old and I plan to program cool stuff forever. Say that is the thing. Now, if is age 12, right? So it is not 12, it is 21, right? So the answer is false. So his name is Maria, true, right? So now when you print age is 12, right? Now what this answer that we have written, false, true or false, it will get printed in that way, but there is a broader use for true and false, right? So let me show you that. I think we have also have that here. Okay, let me show it here. Okay, so now let's say what we are going to do is, let's say I'm just going to create a new variable. I'm just going to call it new variable. Okay, now in this, I'm just going to say true, and I'm going to say and true. Okay, let's say true and false. Let me just check, right? So I'm just going to run it along with you, and I'm just going to print it. Okay, so now what happens is, this is like you might have gone through this in your 1001 or that kind of exercise when you have done your school math or something. Now you can see that true and false. So you always require two statements to be true when you're using and operator. So now and is an operator like into, plus, modulo and all. So what it will do is, whenever there are two conditions, right? If it is true or false, and when you have an and between them, both of them needs to be true. Then your whole condition becomes true, right? So if it is true or false, then the result will be true, right? So let me give an example here. Okay, now let's say I'm just going to say let's say if print I'm just going to say condition. So I think I'll cover that in conditionals, but if you say 8 is greater than 9, right? So if this is one condition, and I'm just going to say, and 9 is greater than 10, right? So if this is a condition, what it will do is check, it will first check is 8 greater than 9, and then it will say, okay, 8 is not, so this is false, and there is false, and 9 is greater than 10 is also false. So the whole truth of the statement, like the whole value of the statement is false, right? So this will come handy while we learn conditionals, right? So I'm just going to make it easy. So what happens is there is something called if, we will learn if clause. So when you write if and then you write true, and under if whatever you write, say, I'm just going to say print, okay? This will work. We're going to understand the if statements in deeper, so you don't have to actually confuse, but I'm going to make you understand how true and false are going to be helpful. So now what is happening here is, if true, then whatever is in that if statement will work, right? So then this print statement will get printed. I'm going to run this. Okay, this will work. Now let's say I'm just going to say if false, and I'm going to run it. It has not got printed because whatever you have written here, if it is false, it will not get printed. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say if 8 is greater than 9, and we know that it is false, this will not get printed. Okay. So I'll just remove this thing so that you don't get confused, right? If 8 is greater than 9, nothing got printed. Now I'm just going to change the greater than to less than. So now 8 less than 9 became true. And if true, print this will work. All right. So when you do that, so this is whatever you write within that statements will work. So even if you have briefly understood the truth and false right now, we'll cover that deeply in conditionals. But if you understood that, type U in the chat box. Yeah. So if condition works only like all of that, whatever is written below will only work if the condition is true. Like for example, you say you will get the chocolates only if you do your homework. If the condition becomes false, you'll not get the chocolates, right? Else you have sweet parents. So I mean, it's a different case. But if you don't do the homework, then you'll not get the chocolates. So this is something like that, right? So what I've done is this true and false works in that. And what has happened here is this 8 less than 9 is going to give an output, which is a Boolean. It is a true or false. If I ask you, is 8 less than 9? The answer could be yes or no, right? So if whatever the question I has is, and I ask something, yes or no, right? So that is going to be the question answer. So whatever, there could be a complex condition. Like I'm just going to say, if you do, I'm just giving an example, do homework and wake up early, and this is a complex condition also, right? And, iron your clothes, you will get chocolates, right? Then he'll never get chocolates. So if the count, so I'm just going to give you here, we will have a maths equation, right? Where it will be true or false, right? Now if you say change the equation to if you do your homework or wake up early or iron your clothes, then any of those becomes true, the print statement will work, right? So I'm just giving you an example, but I hope you understood the concept. While we go into our if conditions, you'll understand this in a deeper way. But true and false are going to be helpful in that. So thank you, Shireen. Thank you, Rengas. Thank you, Jyoti ma'am. Thank you, Deepak sir. Thank you, Prashant. Thank you, Alex. Yeah. So it prints only true value. Whenever it is true, then only whatever is below that will run. Right. Okay. Now, right. So this is what we have covered. And we have covered all of these points. So what we are going to do is the conditionals portion we are going to take up in our next hackathon. But I would request you to go through your Teachable, because that is the major goal, not just keep you waiting till the next hackathon. So I'm just going to cover this again in the hackathon and more. Then I am going to show another other collab file also. But if you don't want to wait, you know where to go. You have to go to your Teachable. All of this is covered within these lectures itself, right? So I request you to do that. And if you find any challenge, right, while you are going through, you can note your points for next hackathon, or directly leave your points to both of these or one of these emails. Okay. So we are going to conclude our session because we are roughly over time here. But I hope this session was helpful, especially for beginners who wanted a head start to get started with Python. Now you know, now you can navigate yourself through Teachable and the whole of the other sessions, right? So if this was useful, and if you have understood briefly all of it, type you in the chat box if you understood. Thank you, Mohan. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Prashant. Okay. Hey, Ritesh, I think that's a very good thing. Yeah, so I think we can connect, Ritesh, right? So we'll connect. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sagar. Thanks, Shruti. Thanks, Srikala. Thanks, Vimala. Yes, thanks, Shivam. Thanks, Biret. So looking forward, the hackathons will be Thursday, same time, 8 o'clock. But you have all of the contents in your Teachable. The same we'll be repeating. So we're not going to be covering something new. So we're going to repeat the same concepts. Yeah. So Vishal sir, currently you do not require any book of sorts here because we have covered everything. But there are some additional resources that are also covered while you go through your Teachable also, right? So most of it is there. So now in books, the challenge would be you again have to come online to practice it. So all of that is covered here. Hey, thanks, Prashant. It's a good thing, right? So maybe if you are already habituated to it, or if you have already done it before, I'm just going to share the Trustpilot link here with everyone. So I request everyone to just put up your takeaways, like whatever you have learned, any interesting points, any learnings that you have gotten, you can just put in your top learnings here on Trustpilot. Good beginning. Thank you for myself. Thank you so much. Right. So in the same way, people who are watching us on YouTube, you can use, you can put up all your thought process in the comment section. And if there's any question also, we'll reach out. Thank you so much, everyone. And looking forward for more learnings and upskilling happening. Yeah. So if you are able to progress further, you can, if you've attended inner circle format, you can, you'll be able to share some good new success stories also. Even small success that you're able to finish module 1, module 2, even we want to celebrate all of that, so that you'll have more energy, motivation to go forward, right? So more success to you so that you can keep sharing. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you so much. Great. Have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.